Now we're going to look at Unit 5, we're on the back with line of best fit and linear regression. So on the test, there is a graphing calculator attached to the test, and I want you guys to use that. We don't have enough graphing calculators anyways, and then this way we just have to review the buttons for that, and I think you guys are pretty familiar with it. It is the 84 that you get, so I don't think it's in color, but it's the 84 plus. So I'm going to go through this one with you guys to make sure that you remember the steps on the graphing calculator, but one thing that they did say is that once you start the test, to go ahead and load the calculator, because it takes a minute or two for the calculator to load when you begin the test. So while you could go ahead and maybe start working some of the problems, and then if you need the calculator, just skip those questions and go back. But they said that the graphing calculator takes a minute or so to load. So just know that you will have a graphing calculator available to you through the testing website. So, okay, line of best fit, we're going to use the graphing calculator. First thing we always want to do is when you go into Stat, press the Stat button, edit right there. You could go down to Clear List, press Enter. Remember, we want to clear list 1 and list 2. Let me back this out some so you can see the whole calculator, hopefully. Maybe. So you want to clear list 1 and list 2. So we want list 1, so we press second 1, the comma is above the 7, and then second 2. This is what's on your screen. Press Enter, you'll see done. When you're ready to enter points, you go to Stat. It's on Edit, so you can press Enter, and then these are your lists. And you should have list 1 and list 2. So you can go ahead and start entering them. So if we go and look at our first example, we're going to kind of go through the information on here and the problem at the same time. So our time studying is our X. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just typing them in. You can use the arrow down key or the Enter key, whichever one you want to do. But those are all of my X values. And then I'm going to arrow over and enter the corresponding Y's. And remember, the most important thing is typing in the right information. So 5 and 92, 1 should be with 70, 0 should be with 63, 4 should be with 90, 2 should be with 75, and 3 should be with 84. So you might just want to run a quick check again, because if you're going to make a mistake, it's probably going to be in entering the information. All right, so now our directions say find the line of best fit for the data. So once you have your points entered, you're going to go to Stat, arrow over to Calc. We want a linear regression. So we did Stat, we did Calc. We're going to go down to linear regression, which is number 4. You can either press 4 or arrow down. If you're using the calculator in the classroom right now, then what you have, you should have the lin reg on your screen. If you have the 84, which is what you're going to see on the test, this says to use list 1 for your X's and list 2 for your Y's, which we've already done. So what we're going to do is go down to where it says store regression equation. This is where we're going to do our next things, which is when we press vars, arrow over to y vars, and then we want a function, so we can press 1. We can fill it in y1, which is fine. And then if you either arrow down or press enter, we want to calculate. It's going to think for a second, and then it's going to give you the information. So remember that your line of best fit is y equals ax plus b. In the rest of the world, it's mx plus b, but for Texas Instruments, they use ax plus b, which you're given right there. You're given the a, you're given the b, and you should be given your r value, which is your correlation coefficient. So we can go over here and write our equation for this one is y equals 6.09 x plus 63.93. So that is the line of best fit for this data. Now, if you wanted to see this, you could press graph. Remember that if you can't see it, that's because the window is wrong. You don't necessarily need to go through all of these steps. We just did it so we could see the things that the graphing calculator could do and you could visualize it. But if you wanted to, you could change the window. My window is crazy, probably from one of the last questions we did. If I want to see the data, I need to move my x's. The x's that we were using went from 0 to 5. So I'm going to go from -3 to 8 on the x's. And then our y values are test scores. So I'm going to go from 50 to 100. And then that way when I graph, you'll be able to see the scatter plot and the line of best fit. Okay, so now we can see our line of best fit with our scatter plot. You don't need to do that for the test, so that's just kind of extra information. Now, the next thing is use the table to predict information. So what we're doing for question number 9 is predicting the test grade for someone that studied 6 hours. The easiest thing to do is to go to the table. So to get to the table, we have to press second graph. And you can see that I'm looking for someone who studied 6 hours, which means X should be 6, and I'm over here in the 60s. So you can either scroll, or if you remember, we can change our table. So if we go to table set, so press second window, I can say that I want my chart to start with even 1, or if you want to go directly, then you press 6. Then when we go back to the table, so second graph will bring us back to the table, now we can see that someone who studied 6 hours should make a 100.5. So predict the test grade for someone that studied 6 hours. The prediction would be 100.5% for their test score. So that's just a quick review of the buttons. Pretty simple. Stat, edit, to enter your points, stat, calc, for linear regression. We go down here to where it says store the equation. That's the only way to get the information in your table is if you do the vars, y vars 1, 1, and then hit enter, and then you'll get your information. The table is second graph to get to the table. Those are your x's and those are your y's. If you're in during the test and you go to the table and you don't have anything in your y column, that's because you didn't do these steps right there, the vars, y vars 1 and 1. That is how you get the points in the table. So, excuse me. So you have to do the line of best fit, the vars, y vars 1, 1. That's how you're going to get the points in the table. So you can't forget to do that if you're trying to predict. If you forget that information, but you do get your equation, you could always fill in 6 right there and then just work out the problem and you will get the same answer.